How's it going, guys? Football-ManagerYouthDevelopment.co.uk here. In today's episode, I'm going to be answering a question from someone that left a comment on one of my videos. He's basically been asking a question about how to best use either advanced forwards or poachers, and he's basically just looking to find out what's the best way to give them service and to help them score more goals. If this is the first time you've watched a video on the channel, please do remember to subscribe to the channel if you're looking for Football Manager tips, and of course do drop a like if you do find this video helpful. So to answer this question, I think it's going to be a good idea to just take a look at the actual roles of both the advanced forwards and of the poacher, have a look at the key attributes, and then I'll kind of give my tips and advice on the type of things I would advise. Generally, when I'm actually playing Football Manager, I don't tend to use the advanced forward role too much. I've been experimenting a little bit with the support striker role recently, which I do think works quite well. The shadow striker role, which I do think kind of works quite well. So if we have a real quick read of this particular role, it's fairly similar to the advanced forward role actually, in that the player that's going to be playing as the shadow striker is going to be the team's main goal scoring threat. However, what they do, they push forward a little bit more deeper. They do run forward when your team is attacking, but they will also look to close down the opposition defenders as well. Now, personally, with the kind of tactics that I like to use, instead of an advanced forward, I do actually prefer to use a shadow striker. But if we do have a real quick look at the advanced forward, just to have so that we're familiar with the sort of roles and duty of this role. So the advanced forward is going to be there to spearhead your defense and your attacking moves. They're going to be there to score and create goals, and their other job is also to close down the opposition defenders as well. So although this player or whoever plays in this particular role is going to be sort of attacking and scoring goals and things like that, they do have a duty to defend and try and close down the opposition as well. Now, on the alternative, the poacher role, basically they're just to kind of score goals, really. I'm not going to read the whole of this description in the duty, but basically it says at the bottom here that their focus on scoring goals is so extreme that it will rarely offer much in sort of defending or anything like that. Basically, they're not going to sort of be doing too much. They might close down like the odd ball and things like that, but yeah, pretty much all they're there to do is just put the ball in the back of the net. So it's actually quite hard to see the sort of key attributes for any role really on the new Football Manager 2017 skin, basically. But yeah, the key attributes that your attacker would need as a poacher is finishing, first touch, composure, anticipation, concentration, off the ball, acceleration, agility. With this particular role, you've not really got to worry too much about work rate. Certainly, if your player is in a good position to score a goal, then finishing and composure are going to be very important. The off-the-ball attribute could be considered to be the most important attribute of this particular role, just simply because he will need to be in the right place at the right time, kind of all the time, basically. Although it's going to be quite handy for your poacher to have acceleration, depending on how other teams set up against you, which is something that I'm going to speak about in a little while. Acceleration might not necessarily be the most important attribute for the poacher duty. The advanced forward, as we know, he's fairly similar to the poacher, but he will be tasked with actually trying to close down the opposition and things like that. So he does need to have a little bit of work rate, the advanced forward. Things like passing are going to come into play as well, just simply because he does need to have, the vision and things like that, just to be able to create different attacks as well. So yeah, although he is there to score goals, he is there to be a creator for your other players as well. So I'm going to show you some highlights from a recent game that I played, but one thing that I mentioned obviously at the beginning of the video is that I prefer the support striker role, basically. The shadow striker role compared to the advanced forward role. The reason for this, basically, you can see here that we had 26 shots in this particular friendly, 11 on target, 13 off target, which is pretty bad. Yeah, loads of passes completed and things like that. But if we actually take a look at the number of passes that my advance forward made, he only actually passed the ball 17 times. The ball was getting passed a hell of a lot around my back four and all my midfield. And considering this was a game that we completely dominated, yeah, you can basically see that my advance forward was hardly involved in any of the play at all. The shadow striker, if you drop him a little bit deeper, then he's going to be getting involved a hell of a lot more in more of the attacking play. And you can actually see, although I did use this guy as an advance forward in this game, he didn't actually end up taking most of the shots. My two centre midfielders, my left midfielder, they actually ended up taking a fair amount of shots. So yeah, I just wanted to show you a really quick highlight just to show you exactly how you can try and use the advance forward in your tactics. So what I'm going to do quickly, I'm just going to play this highlight here. This does end up in us scoring a goal. But what I just want to do is just take a look at Campos, who we are using as our advance forward. What you'll basically see, he'll just keep going backwards and forwards like this. And the idea of him being an advance forward is that he's trying to spear attack, you know, be the head of all of our attacking moves. We've got the ball on the right-hand wing here. The ball's going to end up coming over to the middle of the pitch. But you can see Campos is kind of hovering between the right back and one of the centre defenders here, but his movement, he's literally just going backwards and forwards like that, just to try and yeah, get on the end of a through ball. Now, when you are using an advanced forward or a poacher, ideally, in an ideal world, you would actually have quite a lot of room for your striker to move into. Where it's a little bit like this, where the opposition are basically parking the bus. This was only in the 3rd minute, but you can see that the opposition here are near enough trying to park the bus. They've got a lot of players back, you know, trying to defend and things like that. But yeah, the ball's going to come to my centre midfielder. Simple through ball, and then we do actually end up putting that in the back of the net, which was quite a good goal, to be honest. But yeah, in terms of actually finding space for my advance forward, the only way that he can really do it is just by moving backwards and forwards here. So you can see that he's kind of making that run just to move on to the ball. Now, when you do have an advance forward, it's going to be quite a good idea for them to maybe take first time shots, be able to place shots, I think is another good thing for them to do. So in terms of like preferred moves and things like that, I do think it's going to be a good idea to yeah, if you do want to use a poacher or an advanced forward, it's going to be a good idea to teach them to beat the offside trap as a preferred move. Place shots is going to be another good thing for them to do, and also maybe shoot first time. The amount of time that the advanced forward and a poacher is going to get on the ball is not going to be too great, to be honest. They're going to be closed down fairly often by the opposition defenders. So it's going to be a good idea for them to be doing that sort of thing. So if they do get a slight sniff of goal, it's going to be a good idea for them to take a shot as quickly as possible. So in terms of helping your advanced forward or poacher to score more goals, if we basically imagine that this is my striker here, and that this is one of the opposition defenders. Now, in terms of how you're going to get the most out of your, well, both them two roles, basically, it's all going to depend on how the opposition team are set up. So if you can imagine, if this is one of the defenders, if they're sitting really, really deep, then there's not going to be hardly any room for your players to move into. If they're fairly high, then you're probably going to be able to get away with using a poacher because they can make them runs behind the defenders, which is, of course, what you want. In terms of supplying your strikers, if you do look at the kind of match setup and the opposition are set up with a fairly high defensive line, then you've got a couple of options basically. I do like using the wingers on the support function. The support function will basically mean that your winger is going to just beat his man and quickly get a cross in for the strikers basically, which is going to be fairly handy. So you can imagine my left midfielder running down the wing here. He might beat a defender or two, and basically he's going to cross the ball in really early. What this is going to enable my striker to do is be able to run on to the ball, and then, like I mentioned before, if he has got the sort of preferred moves of likes to take first time shots or things like that, then he should in theory be in quite a good position to take as many shots as possible. The idea of kind of getting the whipped crosses in is going to be quite a good idea. Potentially, in terms of team instructions, it might be a good idea to hit early crosses. Obviously, if you're having absolutely no joy with the early crosses, basically if it's going to absolutely no one, then you may need to sort of kick it on the head fairly early. But using the hit early crosses, attack team instruction could be quite a good thing to do, just so that your striker can try and get behind the opposition defenders as quickly as possible. Likewise, in the middle, you could potentially use your your two centre midfielders or whatever kind of centre midfielders you've got to try and play through balls through the middle. So again, if one of your centre midfielders is in the middle, they can try and thread a ball through the middle. This is going to certainly have kind of like mixed results. If you imagine the opposition might have maybe like a defensive midfielder or someone like that. Obviously, most teams do settle with two centre backs as well. So for your midfielder to actually thread a ball through maybe like a defensive midfielder and two centre backs, it's going to take a pretty good pass for your striker to get onto the end of it. So I do think using your wide men is probably going to be the best way to do it, especially if they are getting their crosses in early, and that can then enable your striker to run on to the ball. Okay, so just before I end this video, I just wanted to take a look at the player instructions that you could set up to help your striker score more goals. So with the advanced forward role, the instructions that are going to be in place from the beginning are to ask them to dribble more, get further forward, and to move into the channels. If it was me and with an advanced forward, the other type of things I would look to do is to close down the opposition more. We do know that with the advanced forward role that the that your striker is going to be trying to close down the opposition defenders as much as possible. I would probably also ask him to pass it shorter and to do fewer riskier passes. I do think that with probably the support of either another striker or one of your other centre midfielders, I do think it's going to be a good idea that if your advanced forward is not in a position to take a shot, that he does actually just pass the ball off shortly. Make a shorter pass just so that he can, basically try and score a goal off the back of that. In terms of like midfielders and things like that, I think, like I mentioned earlier, because it's going to be a good idea to try and whip the ball round the back of the defenders, it's going to be a good idea for your midfielder to stay a little bit wider, just so that he can near enough hug the touchline. It's probably going to be a good idea to cross the ball from deep and to try and cross the ball more often as well. I do think if you can try and aim the crosses at the centre area, which is basically going to be within the penalty area, I do think that's probably going to be the best way to get your advanced forward to run onto the ball as best as possible. I did have a look at potentially making the passes a little bit more direct, but I do think it's going to be quite a good idea for your winger to do mixed passes instead, just so that he can actually try and pick and choose when he crosses the ball. We're going to be asking him to cross the ball more often, which of course means that he's going to be releasing the ball a lot quicker. If we did tell him to be more direct as well and to do more risky passes, then the chances are that your advanced forward is probably not going to be picking up any crosses that come in. So it's probably going to be a good idea to just go for mixed, but do let him cross it more often, just so that he can pick and choose exactly when he would like to cross the ball. You could likewise ask your centre midfielders to try and maybe do like more riskier passes. Potentially that might be something that might be a good thing to do. But again, it really does depend on how good your players are. I'm actually playing as a lower league team here, and as you can see, my players aren't exactly that good. So yeah, I don't exactly have too much of a chance to make do them defense splitting passes or anything like that. So yeah, I would certainly give it a go, just trying to cross the ball in from the wide areas, just to try and get your advanced forward in a position to get as many goals as possible. I'm going to call this the end of the episode, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, do drop a like on the videos. It really does help the channel, and we'll be back very soon for some more Football Manager videos. Thanks for watching.